Good afternoon, guys. Mike here with Wilderness Warriors. I wanted to show you a project that I'm fixing to start working on. I've seen a lot of people using these grease pots from Walmart. I did find out the other day when I picked one up and actually looked at it that it is made by Imusa, even though they're not carrying the other Imusa brand cups at Walmart anymore. I found it interesting that you can find these in every store, and they're actually a little thicker aluminum and around the same price. I think this thing was like $6.88, something like that. It's a 1.5 quart capacity grease pot. So some of the modifications that I'm going to make with this, I'm going to leave the handle as it is. I do see a lot of people that bend this handle in to make it just one loop. I think I'm going to leave it, not mess with it. What I am going to do is get some stretch and seal silicone tape and actually wrap this all the way up and over the top so it's a good silicone handle to grab a hold of. Let me start by... Alright, well the first thing that I'm going to do is make this thing usable as a dry bake oven. I'm going to get a strip of aluminum flashing to provide a support ring for this to turn over and sit down in the very bottom of it. I'm actually going to drill these holes out some more, maybe not every single one of them, but I'm going to punch a bunch of those out to 1/8 of an inch and maybe even step out in this smooth edge and put another row of 1/8 inch holes out there to allow a little bit more heat up. But essentially, it's going to drop in upside down. The little loop is going to be the center support, and then there's going to be an outer little ring of flashing under there to hold that up, and then you'll be able to take any doughs or anything like that and put directly down in there, or if you wanted to carry like a cupcake thing to make muffins or muffin mix, or however you wanted to do it, but they'll sit directly down on there, and you can just put the lid back on it and set it over in the coals of the fire, and then occasionally just spin it around unless you pull a little section of coals out off to the side. Just make a complete bed and then set that directly in the middle of it, and it should work fine. I think I'm going to replace the plastic handle with a round piece of poplar dowel or even an oak dowel to make it wood. But the big thing that I'm going to do, and I'm actually going to make 3 of these in 3 different styles to see which one I like better, is I'm going to put a bail setup on it. And one of the setups that I'm going to use are these little D-ring picture frame hangers. And I'm going to take 2 of the smallest ones, and I'm going to put them, because of this little loop here, or not a loop, but a little pour spout thing that they pressed into it, I'm going to step just off to the side of it, and I'm going to put the pivot of the D-ring, center it up directly on the crease ring in the pot itself, and then I'm going to drill a hole and pop a small pop rivet in there, and I may do a small teeny tiny washer on the outside, but I'm going to do the smallest rivet that I can put in it. And I'm also going to try to use the shortest rivet so there's minimal sticking to the inside. And then I'm going to come to the other side and I'm going to do exactly the same thing, slightly offset. This one I can't get any further away than the handle edge, so I'm going to put it right there beside the handle, and or maybe just over a little bit to where it'll be able to flop down out of the way and not hit it out. It's not going to really matter, I don't think. I'm going to do the same height, and I'm going to do the same thing. Drill a hole through there, maybe a washer, pop a little rivet in there, and just make sure that they're centered up. And for this setup, I'm going to use some flexible steel or even stainless steel cable that goes over to a fishing swivel clip on each end, so the bail will be removable, but you just clip it around there, and then that just basically flops down. You can still use this as a regular boiling pot, setting it on the ground, or even as a mug, still drinking out of it with no problem. The bail's not going to be interfering with it. The second setup that I'm going to try, these little brackets here are mirror offset brackets for a wall, and both of those you can get in sets of 4 at Lowe's or Home Depot. I picked these up particularly at Lowe's, and they're about $1.50 a set of 4. So what I'm going to do with these, again, is slightly offset from the little spout, and I'm going to drill a hole in this tab, a tiny hole for the smallest rivet that I've got, drill it through the aluminum, and put the pop rivet in there. And the only issue that I see with this is it's probably going to make it kind of a pain in the butt to put the lid, not the lid, the lid Yeah, it should clear the lid just fine, but dropping that back in there may be a little bit of a hassle. I may wind up just carrying it where that strainer is in the bottom and already set up like that, just to keep it from being a hassle, but we'll have to see. So both of these offsets can be set like that, and then on this side, and that's going to give me perfect little setup for a bail handle to stick in there. And I'm going to make probably the first bail out of a coat hanger wire, but then after that, the permanent solution that I'm going to do is I'm going to get some stainless steel brazing rod and wrap it around the pot itself in the middle here to make the full horseshoe the exact same shape of the pot itself. And then I'm going to trim it off to the same length and bend them 90 degrees, stick them through the tabs, and then bend them up and over a little bit to make a stainless steel rigid bail that will stay on there. I think that this setup is probably going to look a little cleaner than the other. I also might, instead of using rivets, actually do small stainless steel machine screws and put the smooth head on the inside and then just the little nut on the outside and Loctite them. Nothing up top is going to be getting super hot, so the Loctite will never melt, and there's no water that's going to be up at that edge. Anyway, so I'm not really worried about them leaking. Alright, the third setup that I'm going to do with these, I bought some very thin aluminum angle. It's about 1 inch by 1 inch, and I'm going to cut off sections of it that are maybe a little bit wider than this, and I'm going to round the top edge down, and I'm going to put it in a vise and actually bend one edge over with a chisel and a hammer to give me the same Z pattern as this right here. And that piece will then sit just below the top edge, so they'd be basically even, and it will actually be able to go right here in the front without an issue. And then this one over here, I don't know if I'll be able to get it in there the same way. I'll be able to trim them down. There's nothing that's going to be directly uniform about these, because what I'm going to do is, instead of punching holes in this in any way, I'm going to use some aluminum brazing rod. Alright, the third setup that I'm going to do with these, I bought some very thin aluminum angle. It's about 1 inch by 1 inch, and I'm going to cut off sections of it that are maybe a little bit wider than this, and I'm going to round the top edge down, and I'm going to put it in a vise and actually bend one edge over with a chisel and a hammer to give me the same Z pattern as this right here. And that piece will then sit just below the top edge, so they'd be basically even, and it will actually be able to go right here in the front without an issue. And then this one over here, I don't know if I'll be able to get it in there the same way. I'll be able to trim them down. There's nothing that's going to be directly uniform about these, because what I'm going to do is, instead of punching holes in this in any way, I'm going to use some aluminum brazing rod and actually braze or bond the aluminum angle directly to it. And at that point, I'll be able to fill in any gaps just by heating it up. Essentially, it's like solder, but it melts at about 1500 degrees, so you won't ever have to worry about it melting in a fire. And I think that that's going to be the cleanest and smoothest application of this, that I'll be able to trim it all down, make it look nice and neat. It's going to be the same materials, and at that point, I'll either still do a rigid stainless steel bail in it, or possibly even do an aluminum brazing rod up and over for an aluminum bail to keep it all the same materials. I can get that a little bit larger, but with the stainless I can go a little bit smaller and have it more rigid. But essentially, those are just going to fold over, and the contour will stick to the side. It's not going to be tall enough to go below the bottom. I'm going to make sure that the bail stops pretty close to the bottom here, so it's tall but not too tall, and then still gives you access to use this as a drinking cup as well. So that's the project. I'm going to be working on these over the next couple of days, and I'll take pictures and video along the way, and hope you'll enjoy watching the video and seeing the progress. Thanks for watching. Alright, so far this is what I've got done. Took the plastic handle off, cut a piece of 1-inch wooden dowel, and used a stainless steel screw. It is a little bit tall, the screw is a little bit long, but I like having plenty to grab a hold of there, and you're talking minimal in weight. I haven't done anything with the cooking ring from the bottom for dry baking yet. The first one that I'm going to complete is going to use the little picture hanger swivel type deals, and the way that I'm going to set this one up is that I've drilled a hole in the handle, and this one is either going to use a machine screw and nut and go just like that, or I'm going to rivet it. And pretty much the same thing with this one over here. This one was centered just under the little spout deal, and they're set to where the tops of the loops are the same height on both sides, which is just at the edge of the lip up top, the bottom side of the edge. You can see that one. Just going to screw in the same way. These won't fold down completely flat, but they flop out of the way. They're not going to be, hanging on anything or snagging on anything, because all the edges are going to be smooth to it. But that's what I got so far. I've still got to pick up some of the silicone tape for the handles, and I've got to pick up some of the machine screws and try those. I think that the machine screws are just going to look cleaner than doing the rivets. So I think that's the route that I'm going to take. And then I've still got to drill the holes in these. For that style setup, got to pick up a couple of coat hangers. Had Imusa grease pot project going on for the past week. I've worked on this for a couple of days here and there, 10-20 minutes. I like this idea because the pot is cheap. It's decently thick aluminum. It's very basic. Got a nice large handle. It doesn't weigh a whole lot. This was the first one that I did. I actually have done 3 of these. And so the modifications that I made for it, I just put used a oak wooden dowel, drilled a hole, stainless steel screw, a little bit taller handle, won't melt. I took the strainer inside, drilled the holes out to 1/8 of an inch, brushed them down a little bit, made sure everything was smooth, there's no loose burrs or any metal in there. And that is actually going to be to drop down inside with an additional metal ring to support it and use as a dry baking grate. And on this particular model, I took little D-rings for picture hanging, and this one is to be used with the wire bails. Now this particular wire is a little steel cable. It is twisted, not braided, and then I have simply got fishing clasp on it, and I twisted the wires and then used a crimp end off of a terminal, wire terminal, and crimped it. And the one for this one will actually be shorter than this. This is a very long one, but it doesn't take up a whole lot of weight, and it does have alternative uses. You could certainly make a small snare out of it as well. And then I wrapped the handle with silicone tape, the stretch and seal silicone tape. It's good to a minimum of 500 degrees without melting. For the hardware on these, I used stainless steel machine screws, stainless steel washers, and a stainless steel nut, and actually Loctite the nut on, so they won't come off. This one was through the side directly in the center. This one was actually in the handle, top of the handle directly in the center. This one was through the side below this lip, so it wouldn't interfere with the grill, the grate sitting back in the top of it. That one was number 1. Number 2, I had a little bit different ideas. This one I haven't done anything with the handle on it. Same thing with the grate. Same thing with the handle here. I wrapped it a little thicker. This one I just used red on. This one I made a hardwire bail out of galvanized drop ceiling suspension wire. And my original idea was to use an aluminum brazing soldering type material just to solder the bracket on. And it really didn't stick too well to this particular aluminum. It stuck well to the bracket, but not to the pot itself. So I wound up riveting it once with a pop rivet from the inside, very tiny one, and then using the brazing material to go ahead and fill it all in. And I can't see that this is going to come off by any means. The handles are pretty easy to make. I had to bend them a little to offset for the side of that, and then I simply wrapped the handle themselves with some of the stretch and seal tape too. Very grippy. You're not going to lose it, not going to slip. It's not going to be too hot to pick up even directly out of the fire. And if you're setting it in the coals like that, if the handle's to the outside, you're not going to have to worry about it melting. So that's the second one. And the bail folds down nicely, so when you're sticking it in your pack or anything, it's not bulking out to the side. The handle back here is really the only thing you got to worry about. And the third one, very similar. I did a wooden handle up here, just a little doorknob pull, a little less wood, looks pretty nice I think. Drilled the grate out. Shorter galvanized bail, doesn't hang down quite as low. They're centered, so they're going to hang nicely. On this one, I use the same stainless steel hardware. Nut is Loctited on. Stainless steel screw and washer on the inside, and then thickly wrapped with silicone tape on the outside. I think this one is pretty much my favorite one. I don't know, I just like it. It's a good cheap pot, very durable. You use them for a while, throw them away. I think altogether I've got about $11 in each of them, buying the materials to do it all together at once. So those are my versions of the Imusa grease pot from Walmart as a cooking pot. It was $6.88, I believe. They hold 1.5 quarts of water. Very light, durable, cheap. Let me know what you think and show me your ideas. Thanks for watching.